Hi. This week there was a real consistency in the sessions that showed up. And it really highlighted and emphasized the despair. And the despair in each situation, one way or another, was that the mind on its own has no cure. The cards that came up before starting the sessions was listening and balance, which will be obvious when you see what the sessions are. It's amazing how they fit whoever comes in. So it started off with the spirit, the holistic side, excuse me, being disconnected. It itself stepped aside and basically said, I can't do this anymore. Because the journey so far had brought this being so into a state that took a lot to get there. And to flip away from it again and be focused on others. And other could be news, what other people think, or interpreting things, or wanting to know how they interpreted it, which at the end just is a spinning mind. And it stepped aside. Spirit stepped aside. I can't do this anymore. And of course this being, excuse me, this being was feeling flat, tired, nothing was digesting, spinning in the head, which several had actually who came this weekend. And so wonderful that once the pattern was seen, the connection was back in place. And each time it's like that which we are comes in and says, I knew you could bring it into balance. I know you have this capacity, but it's a higher knowing, not a mental knowing. And a lot of what was this weekend is being in touch with this inner knowing. And that inner knowing will say, go check something out when it needs to be checked, but not, what do I need to check out? And what haven't I checked out? Different process completely. One being that came in who has had quite a few issues with vertigo and spinning, one way or another, and again, so much more feeling herself, having energy, being clear about being able to be viable rather than having to lie down and stay home and not function. So it's a big shift. And something wasn't quite sitting right yet. And it came to, because of vast previous concerns that go back, we don't know how far, there was an aspect in her that was starting to deeply relax in her spirit being, that sense of who we are. And it just couldn't deal with the relaxation. It couldn't go there. And there's a big cost in not being able to go to deep relaxation, a deep cost. Because the cost is not being able to connect to your blissful self. Whether it is a walk in nature, whether it is intimacy with your partner. If the relaxation isn't there, there's a huge cost. And it fell into place and the body tingled and it was able to move the head without spinning out when that ability to say, I can relax. It's a new experience for many. And how deeply can you relax? And then there was a being who, bright intellect, big heart, was on the threshold of what she had been waiting for a very, very long time. So it's as good as in the bag. You know how sometimes you can feel the presence of something that's so present you're already there. And the energy of that went into, will I be good enough? This whole sense of what if, and what if, ultimately, all the scenarios. And what came to the fore was the being of who you are has this, that has arrived, so that through that you have the opportunity to express and bring out who you are. It's the gig. And when you're in the gig, it's about being that authentic self that you are, which is really what we're here to do more than anything, is bring out that which is utterly authentic to us. And that when that was the focus, all those other ifs disappeared, because there's no if about that. You either do that or you don't do that. And you either feel at home there amongst others and find trust in yourself, that you can then place the trust in others, that whether they hear or don't hear it, to stay with the authenticity within yourself and continue on with that. That's a life well lived. And then it came again to someone who, although having felt good for a long time and stronger than ever before, she could still get tipped off. And whenever it went to mind where she didn't know where others were coming from, how it was going to work out, all of that, the behavior that came from that was, I have to really accentuate this and make it big so that they can hear me. But when it becomes that big, no one can hear it. So going to what she had had many experiences of and knows deeply how this works, to really go calm and clear, and then calmly place on the table whatever the request or desire is to be assisted by, that brings probably the same but totally different experience in her life, to come from calmness and to see how it all comes forward, rather than if I don't accentuate it to how important this is, they won't hear me. And that allowed her to relax in many different aspects in her life, as she could see where she's in the calmness, to give others the time to come there, or to be able to bring what they can for in the best of their capacity, if it isn't the full amount. Calmness here was the discerning aspect through all the sessions. And then I'll share one more. And this one was quite extraordinary, because what showed up was that in so many lifetimes, this being had been like this wise sage being in the world. over and over and over and over again. And she's recognised for her extraordinary calmness in any situation. It's almost her signature. And she recognises that. And it got disturbed by outside information. And it went outside of that calmness to explore that situation, because it was not in this calm field at all. And in exploring it, tipped into mind. And therefore the despair that the mind on its own has no cure for. When the information came from mind to its extreme in the first place. And the reason it went to mind is because within the calmness, there was no digestion for this information. And there was really no need for digesting this information. Because in the calmness, all is fine. We can tip into mind, and it's tipping into mind isn't a problem if you can see it. And you can see there are no answers there. It's really when we come from good spirit, the heart mind that knows how to bring out the next possibility. And we have a large collective now that the more we are kind and calm, the more service we can be to others rather than escalating. Because the only thing that's escalating is mind. And the answers don't lie there. You know, you look at the world and you go, the world's filled with people trying to fix things. And with authenticity and heart and calmness, we will find what that is. So the two cards are, I just had a message saying that this video would not be able to be downloaded and then it switched on. So fingers crossed, we'll see. So the two cards that came up in relation to this, which is kind of perfect, listening. Now is the time to listen to your intuition. Slow down and quiet the mind chatter. Listen to your own words and ensure you are using positive language or positive thoughts, calm thoughts. When you hear others, make sure you really listen to what is being said and remember to listen to more than just the words. Listen to your world with your heart. Which brings a state of balance. Balance is a state of being, not a fine line to tread. Be aware of all possibilities, for balance is not available to you when you are only working with one side of things. Hold your composure in the face of difficulties, and when you remember to breathe, balance is there for you. Beautiful. Much love.